Kingdom of Olannma, there lived a beautiful princess named Olannma. Like her name, Olannma was the jewel of the land whose beauty was unmatched across the lands. Her skin gleamed like polished ebony, her eyes sparkled like the stars, and her voice was as sweet as a nightingale's song. Every young man in the kingdom sought her hand in marriage, showering her with gifts and praise. Her beauty was the talk of villages far and wide, and suitors lined up with gifts, hoping to win her favor. From golden jewelry to herds of cattle, there was no end to the treasures she received. Yet, Olannma's pride overshadowed her beauty. She mocked the farmer who brought her fruits. "How can you expect me to eat this dirt?" she sneered. She laughed at a blacksmith's carefully crafted bracelet, calling it too crude for someone like me. The palace servants whispered among themselves about her cruelty, but no one dared confront the princess. One day, an old woman approached the palace. She carried a calabash filled with herbs and sweet oils, bowing before Olannma. "Princess, please accept this gift. It is a charm for your happiness and long life." Olannma glared at the old woman. You dare present me with this trash? Take your dirty calabash and leave before I have the guards bundle you." The old woman's eyes, once soft, turned fierce. Her frail frame straightened, and her voice became as commanding as thunder. "You mock my gift, proud princess. You look down on those who offer you love. For this, I curse you. From this day on, your beauty will bring you nothing but sorrow. Any man who loves you will suffer a tragic fate. Only when you learn humility and kindness will the curse be lifted." The old woman disappeared into the air, leaving Olannma and the court in stunned silence. That night, Olannma's father, King Eziobi, dismissed the event as a strange trick of the mind. But in the coming days, tragedy began to strike. The first suitor to visit Olannma after the curse was a wealthy merchant. He knelt before her with a chest of gold coins. "Princess, I bring you treasures beyond measure, for my heart belongs to you," he declared. Olannma smiled smugly and accepted the gold. But before the week was over, the merchant was found lifeless in his chambers. Whispers began to spread through the kingdom. Next came a brave warrior, who vowed to protect Olannma for all eternity. "Your beauty is worth dying for," he proclaimed. His words became prophetic. He fell in battle days later. Suitor after suitor met tragic ends: a prince who drowned during a storm, a poet who fell ill after composing verses in her honor. The people of Olannma began to be wary of Olannma, and no man dared approach her. Alone in her grand palace, Olannma's once proud heart began to feel the weight of despair. She realized the old woman's curse was real. Olannma sat alone in her grand chambers, her once proud heart heavy with regret. Her beauty, once her greatest asset, had become a curse that drove away everyone who came close to her. The once bustling palace, filled with suitors, laughter, and music, now felt like a prison of solitude. She knew she had to act. Calling her loyal handmaiden, Adama, Olannma whispered, "I can no longer bear this curse. I must find the old woman and beg for her forgiveness." Adama's eyes widened with concern. "Princess, the world beyond the palace walls is harsh. You have never walked among commoners, let alone brave the wilderness. Are you certain?" "I have no choice," Olannma replied. "I would rather face the dangers of the unknown than live in this unbearable loneliness." Dressed in plain clothes to conceal her royal identity, Olannma left the palace in the dead of night, carrying only a small bundle of food and water. For the first time in her life, she walked barefoot on the rocky path outside the palace, her delicate feet quickly bruised and bloodied. She stumbled often, her hands scraping against stones and thorns, but she pressed on, her resolve strengthening with each step. By midday, the sun scorched her skin, and her water pouch was nearly empty. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but she refused to stop. At a roadside market, she offered her golden earrings in exchange for a simple loaf of bread and a drink of water. The merchant stared at her fine features and clothes with suspicion but accepted the trade. As night fell, Olannma reached a small village and asked for shelter. The villagers, unaware of her royal status, offered her a corner in a crowded hut. That night, as she lay on a straw mat listening to the soft breathing of the family who had taken her in, she realized how much she had taken her luxurious life for granted. The simplest comforts, a warm meal, a kind word, were rare treasures to these people. The next morning, an elder in the village pulled her aside. "The woman you seek is powerful," he warned. "She does not forgive easily. If you wish to gain her favor, you must prove your sincerity through action, not words." Olannma nodded solemnly. "I will do whatever it takes," she said, her voice firm. The journey ahead was uncertain, but her heart, for the first time, felt the stirrings of humility. Continuing her journey through the dense forest, Olannma heard a faint cry. She followed the sound until she came upon a frail widow struggling to carry a bundle of firewood twice her size. The woman's hands were trembling, her face streaked with sweat. "Please," the widow gasped, looking up at Olannma. "Help me. I must take this wood home to cook for my children, but I am too weak to carry it further." At first, Olannma hesitated. She had never lifted anything heavier than a golden goblet. The thought of dirtying her hands made her stomach churn. But then she remembered the elder's words, "Prove your sincerity through action." Without saying a word, Olannma stepped forward and lifted the bundle of firewood. It was heavier than she imagined, and her back ached with each step, but she pressed on. The widow led her to a small hut, where two wide-eyed children rushed out to greet their mother. "You're home," they cried, their voices filled with joy. "Thanks to this kind traveler," the widow said, her voice thick with emotion. She invited Olannma to stay for dinner, offering a simple meal of yam porridge. Sitting on the dirt floor, eating from a wooden bowl, Olannma felt something unfamiliar, a sense of fulfillment. Helping the widow had brought her a kind of peace she had never known. While passing a narrow forest path, Olannma heard the sound of a child sobbing. She followed the cries until she found a small boy sitting on the ground, clutching his knees. "What's wrong?" Olannma asked, kneeling beside him. "I've lost my way," the boy sniffled. "I can't find my mother." Olannma's first instinct was to walk away. She had her own troubles to deal with, after all. But as she looked into the boy's tear-streaked face, she couldn't bring herself to leave him. "I'll help you find her," she said, holding out her hand. The boy took it, and they walked together for hours, calling out for his mother. Olannma's legs ached, and her throat was dry, but she refused to give up. Finally, they reached a small village where a woman ran out, crying, "My son." The boy let go of Olannma's hand and ran into his mother's arms. The woman turned to Olannma, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, stranger. You've brought my heart back to me." Olannma smiled softly, realizing that her journey was teaching her more than she had ever imagined. Olannma's journey led her to a small village nestled in a dry valley. The air was heavy with dust, and the fields, once green and abundant, were now barren. Emaciated villagers sat in the shade of withered trees, their eyes hollow with hunger. The sight tugged at something deep within Olannma. She approached a group of elders huddled near an empty granary. "What has happened here?" she asked softly. One of the elders sighed. "The rains have abandoned us. The riverbed is dry, and our crops have failed. Many of us have not eaten for days. We fear we will not survive the season." Olannma reached into her small satchel and pulled out the last of her provisions, 2 small loaves of bread she had purchased days earlier. She hesitated, knowing this was all she had left for her journey. But the memory of the boy reunited with his mother, the widow's grateful smile, and the elder's words echoed in her mind. "Take this," she said, handing the bread to the elders. "It is not much, but it's all I have." The elders looked at her in astonishment. "You are a stranger to us. Why would you sacrifice your own food?" "I have lived my life surrounded by abundance," Olannma replied. "But I never knew what it meant to truly need. Now I understand, and I cannot turn away." The bread was divided among the villagers, each receiving only a small piece, but their gratitude was overwhelming. Children smiled weakly, mothers whispered blessings, and the elders bowed their heads in thanks. That night, Olannma sat under the open sky with an empty stomach but a full heart. She had given away the last of her material possessions, yet she felt richer than ever before. As the stars twinkled above, an elder approached her with a cup of water. "You have shown great kindness," he said. "May your journey bring you the peace you seek." Olannma drank gratefully, her resolve strengthening. The journey was not over, but each step brought her closer to understanding the kind of person she wanted to become. The next morning, Olannma reached the edge of the enchanted forest. Thick, gnarled trees loomed overhead, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocked out the sunlight. The air was cool but heavy, and an eerie silence hung over the forest. As Olannma stepped into the shadows, whispers began to fill the air. At first, they were faint, like the rustling of leaves, but soon they grew louder, forming words. Ungrateful. Proud. Cruel. The voices echoed her past, each accusation hitting her like a blow. She saw visions of her younger self, laughing at the farmer who offered her yams, sneering at the poet's verses, and dismissing the old woman's gift. Tears streamed down her face as she stumbled forward. "I was wrong," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I was blind to the pain I caused." The whispers grew louder, circling her like a storm. "Do you think words alone will save you?" they taunted. "No," Olannma said, standing tall despite her fear. "Words mean nothing without action. I am ready to prove I have changed." The forest seemed to pause, as if considering her words. Slowly, the whispers faded, and the path ahead cleared. Olannma wiped her tears and continued, her determination stronger than ever. At the heart of the forest, Olannma came upon a shimmering stream. Sitting by its edge was the old woman, her back straight and her eyes piercing. She looked neither angry nor pleased as Olannma approached and knelt before her. "I have come to beg for your forgiveness," Olannma said. "I was arrogant and unkind. I see that now. Please, leave this curse." The old woman studied her in silence before speaking. "Forgiveness is not given freely, child. It must be earned. If you truly wish to leave the curse, you must prove that your heart has changed." "I am ready," Olannma replied. The old woman nodded. "You must complete 3 tasks. First, help a blind man cross the stream. Second, plant seeds in barren soil and nurture them until they sprout. Third, heal an injured bird and set it free." Olannma nodded, her resolve unwavering. She found the blind man sitting by the stream, his cane trembling in his hand. Gently, she took his arm and guided him across, stepping carefully over slippery rocks. The man thanked her with a warm smile that filled her with pride. Next, she planted seeds in a patch of dry earth. She fetched water from the stream and tended the soil daily. Though it was hard work, she refused to give up. Days later, small green shoots emerged, a sign of life and hope. Finally, she discovered a small bird with a broken wing. She fashioned a splint from a twig and tied it gently with a strip of cloth from her dress. For days, she fed the bird crumbs and sang to it, watching it grow stronger. When it was ready, she released it into the sky, her heart soaring with it. The old woman appeared once more, her face softening. "You have proven yourself," she said. "The curse is lifted, but remember, the true test lies in how you live your life from this moment on." Olannma stood by the stream, her heart pounding in her chest. The old woman's words rang in her ears, "You have proven yourself. The curse is lifted, but remember, the true test lies in how you live your life from this moment on." As the old woman spoke those final words, Olannma felt a strange warmth fill her chest. The air around her shifted, and she glanced at her reflection in the water. For the first time in years, she saw herself as she truly was, no longer a proud, arrogant princess, but a woman who had learned the value of humility, kindness, and compassion. The old woman smiled, her eyes filled with understanding. "You are free from the curse now, Olannma. But you must remember what you have learned. True beauty is not in your face or your wealth, but in the love and respect you show others. Live with kindness in your heart, and you will find the joy that has eluded you." Olannma nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She had come seeking forgiveness, but now she realized that the journey itself had been the true redemption. It wasn't the lifting of the curse that had changed her, it was the lessons she had learned along the way. The old woman raised her hand and slowly faded into the air, disappearing like a wisp of smoke. For a long moment, Olannma stood there, taking in the stillness of the forest. The curse had been lifted, but the real challenge was ahead of her. She began her journey back to Olannma, no longer concerned with regaining her former life of luxury and praise. She had found something far more valuable on her travels, the ability to love and serve others, without expectation or pride. When Olannma returned to the kingdom of Olannma, she was not the same princess who had once sat upon her golden throne, surrounded by suitors and wealth. The palace was still as magnificent as ever, but Olannma's heart had changed in ways that could not be measured by gold or jewels. At first, the people of the kingdom were shocked by her transformation. The once proud princess now spent her days among the commoners, talking to farmers, helping the poor, and feeding the hungry. She opened schools to educate the children of the village, making sure that no child was ever left behind due to their circumstances. One day, a group of elders came to her with a request. "Princess, you have changed the way we see the world," one elder said. "We ask that you become the new queen, not because of your beauty, but because of your heart. Lead us with compassion and wisdom, and we will follow you." Olannma smiled softly, but it was not the smile of a girl who sought power. "I do not need a crown to lead," she replied. "True leadership comes from service, not from titles. I will serve my people with all my heart, as I should have done from the beginning." The kingdom flourished under Olannma's new role. She traveled to villages and towns, speaking to the people, listening to their struggles, and offering solutions. Her beauty, once her greatest weapon, was now a distant memory, replaced by the respect and admiration of those whose lives she had touched. As years passed, Olannma's legacy spread far beyond the borders of Olannma. Her story was told in every village, how the proud princess had been cursed, but how she had found redemption by learning to love others and live with humility. And so, Olannma became a legend, not because of her beauty, but because of her heart. Her name lived on, a symbol of the power of change, kindness, and redemption. Olannma's story teaches us that true beauty is not found in outward appearance or material wealth, but in the kindness, humility, and compassion we show to others. Our actions define us, not our titles or possessions. When we choose to serve others with love and integrity, we can transform not only our own lives but the lives of those around us. Redemption is always possible for those who recognize their mistakes and work to make amends. The greatest power we can possess is a heart that is willing to change and grow, no matter how far we've fallen.
So, dear amazing friends, if you enjoyed this video, do like, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications and become a VIP. Get notified when I drop new stories and never miss out on our next exciting story. Join the family and let's keep these tales alive. See you in the next one.